This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.
Welcome back. 10 subjects in the Ministry of Education's curriculum getting revamped this week. Minister in charge Glenys Hanna-Martin, Minister of State for Education Zane Lightburn, Education Director Marcellus Taylor, and other senior members of the Ministry of Education gathered in celebration for the curriculum launch. During her speech, Minister Glenys Hanna-Martin emphasized that curriculums must be continuously monitored for its positive outcomes, contextually relevant to our national reality and the global environment.
The curriculum is the framework for this critically important process. And so it must be, as the director said, continuously monitored for its positive outcomes and must be at all times contextually relevant to our national reality and the global environment. The curriculum must reflect our national vision and our collective values as a developing people who believe that this Bahamas can be and will be, with God's help and by our fervent efforts, the finest little country on the face of the earth. The objective of this process of education delivery must be to create in our precious children and young people critical thinking, a commitment to excellence, an ethical grounding, and a proud and confident new generation.
Minister Hanna-Martin noted that in the review and design of our curriculum, we must seek to create a living and dynamic roadmap which journeys our children to a place of self-realization and comprises more than a space for accumulation of facts and information, but a space which awakens talents, brilliance, and optimism, the courage for objective analysis of our external reality. Education Director Marcellus Taylor gives his take on why the curriculum is important.
The national curriculum is the second most important policy document in an education system, second only to the Education Act, because the national curriculum determines what it is that students will know by the time they exit an education system. And that is important because the whole role of education is to ensure that we develop the kinds of citizens who can not only self-actualize and be the individuals that they wish to be and that they ought to be, but also that we prepare people to lead the national development efforts. And we all live in the Bahamas, and we know that our country is a young country, and there are many things that we need to do in order to make our country the country that it ought to be. And it's this curriculum that will help to shape how our citizens will be and their level of preparedness to make our country what it ought to be.
Some of the subjects in this new launch include the pre-primary curriculum, a new entrepreneurial skill curriculum, the computer studies curriculum, and carpentry and joinery. Both the Minister of National Security and the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture began the week with a busy schedule on the ground, touring several community centers that have benefited from a loan by the International Development Bank and are a part of the government's efforts to reduce the amount of crime and violence in our communities. Juno Saunders was there and files this report.
Loans from the Inter-American Development Bank through its Security and Justice Program, CSJP, are expected to improve the ability and capacity of local community centers, allowing them to be more effective in their community. The first of 3 stops on the tour by National Security Minister Wayne Monroe and the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture Mario Boleg was the Foxhill Youth and Community Center under the guidance of Manager Donovan Roll, followed by a visit to the Kwaku Street Community Center where Belinda Chipman is the manager, and the Edmund Moxie Community Center on Blue Hill Road where Cleo Strawn is the manager. Minister Monroe discussed the end goal of the IDB loans and what will happen once those loans dry up.
The whole purpose of it is to provide a safe space for programming that will help to bond communities, build communities, combat violence against women, gender violence. A number of programs will be run in the centers. It's currently under the auspices of the Ministry of National Security. We're here with a team with the Minister of Youth and Sport and Culture, for a consideration of the Ministry of Youth and Sport and Culture taking over the center once the IDB loan is completed, which should be early next year.
Mr. Monroe says services provided by community centers is at the ground level of national security and is very important in the fight against crime.
No matter how many police officers are funded through the Ministry of National Security, no matter how much technology we buy them, until the community comes together and decides to stop what is going on, we'll just continue to hire more police, fund more technology. This is one of the steps we hope to help deter people from getting into a life of crime.
Minister Oleg says the goal of the tour for him and his team was to see exactly what each center provides and what they may need to enhance and strengthen their positive impact on the community. He believes effective community centers are a major key to reducing rising crime levels and increasing antisocial behavior.
My ministry is one of the ministries that we feel has the authority and the ability to impact the nation widely. And as Minister Monroe said earlier, in order for us to divert these youths from the life of crime, then we must ensure that we have positive activities for the youths in order for them to be involved and to stay active and be positive citizens in this country. So I like what I've seen so far. We're going to continue and inspect the other two facilities. And at the end of the day, my directors are here from Youth, Sports and Culture. We already have plans in place that once we are able to take over these facilities, the partnership with those who are involved, all the stakeholders that is, and to just enhance the program so that we could continue impacting the nation at a positive environment.
The amount of the IDB loan was unavailable, but according to Minister Monroe, it is enough to carry the community centers to 2023, at which time the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture will step in to assist. Jurino Saunders for JCN News.
3 men arraigned in the magistrate's court today on 4 counts of fraud by false pretenses and uttering a forged document. It is alleged that between February 5th and February 23rd, Errol Knowles, Calvin Farquharson, and Jean-Baptiste attempted to defraud several local business establishments through the use of various forged cashiers and managers' checks, for amounts ranging from $2,000 to $16,000. The prosecution alleges that the trio, acting in concert and individually, obtained or attempted to obtain large quantities of goods from various establishments, including multi-discount furniture, Perfect Paint, and DC Technology. Represented by separate counsel, the 3 men all entered not guilty pleas. Justice Kendrick Kelly, taking into consideration each man's respective attendance, saw fit to grant Calvin Farquharson $6,000 bail while deferring Knowles and Baptiste bail hearing to Wednesday, March 9th. All 3 men are expected to return to court on June 7th for trial. Stony coral tissue loss disease, anecdotally called coral COVID, is still wreaking havoc on our coral reefs. This according to the Perry Institute of Marine Science, who, in a collaborative effort with the Bahamas National Trust, who hosted an emergency press briefing aimed at alerting the general public to the state of our coral reef system.
In 2019, we discovered with great alarm that a dreaded disease that had been previously discovered in Florida was present in the Bahamas and first monitored in 2019 in one of our national parks in Grand Bahama. This is the dreaded stony coral tissue loss disease, and we have experts who will speak more to that, certainly. But this is a disease that is absolutely threatening, 100% threatening our very way of life. Coral reefs are extremely important to so much of what we know as the Bahamas, whether we're talking about tourism, diving, reef fishing, whether we're talking about fisheries, spiny lobsters, coastal protection that coral reefs provide for us from storms, from climate change. Coral reefs are a building block in the ecological world. They are fundamentally important, and they are absolutely under threat from this disease. This disease is unlike anything we have ever seen. This monster is a cancer. This is the underwater COVID pandemic for coral reefs.
BNT Director Eric Carey says they have been petitioning the government for years now, and the proper diving and research permits to adequately research and treat this infectious aquatic disease, but until recently there has been little to no progress.
Well, so PIMS and others had actually done some assessments of this this issue when permits were being issued. So we've already started the work. As soon as we can get our colleagues in the water getting firsthand visual knowledge of what's happening, then the work will continue. With respect to the task force, it was a cabinet-appointed committee, which means that it has a lot of weight. It has a serious mandate, but it is currently stalled as far as we're concerned. We're convinced that the government will get it moving again, and we stand ready to provide the support that we can from this side. But yes, this is an issue that the government must take responsibility for, must take the initiative, must issue the relevant permits, must provide relevant funding to be able to understand and appreciate what is happening.
Marine biologist Lashanti Jupe and Megan Fountain, who helped to coordinate this collaboration between the Perry Institute and the BNT, says this highly infectious disease spreads geometrically and has already infected up to 100 miles of coral in the Bahamas and is still infecting more than 1 mile of reef a month.
On a scale of 1 to 10, it's 100. This is affecting coral reef, which is iconic to the Bahamian people. Whether you are a marine biologist, whether you're a fisherman, whether you work in tourism, this is going to affect the very livelihoods of the country. People are not going to come here if our beaches are not crisp and pristine as they are right now. People are not going to come here if they're not able to eat the seafood that's coming fresh out of our water. We already have issues with the Queen Conch. We're already having issues with Nassau grouper. Can you now imagine that they don't even have a place to live, so they won't even be in the water surrounding the country anymore? This is how important that is. Like, we're about to lose everything if we do not stop this disease right now. I implore any Bahamian that's watching this, if you see one of our posts on social media or any of our partners posting about it, it doesn't hurt to even just share. Even if you're not currently in the Bahamas, help our people, help our country. Make sure that we are getting the awareness out about this so that people who are going into the water, even if it's a tourist visiting, if it's Bahamians visiting home, you can take pictures and you can report it and you can let us know so that we can begin treating this, because our very livelihoods are at stake. Our very country is at stake. Our identity is at stake. So it's important to fight this disease and eradicate it out of our country.
And some good and welcome news from the COVID front. Just one case of COVID-19 confirmed in the Bahamas for Saturday, March 5th. The first time in the history of COVID-19 in the country, New Providence has not recorded a case. That lone case reported by the Ministry of Health and Wellness in its latest dashboard is a male resident of Grand Bahama. 166 RT-PCR tests were completed on Saturday, 165 negative results. Active cases in country now at 176. 9 people are in hospital, 8 moderately ill, and 1 case in intensive care. The COVID death toll remains at 771, with 43 deaths still under investigation. 15 people were reported recovered from the virus on Saturday. Recoveries now at 32,013. Well, some good news for regatta enthusiasts. Prime Minister Philip Davis this weekend announced to Cat Island residents that the Cat Island Rake and Scrape Festival and Regatta would resume this year. As COVID-19 cases continue to trend down with just 1 confirmed case in the Bahamas on Saturday, Prime Minister Davis told residents on Cat Island that they may start planning for regattas, which is preceded by that island's Rake and Scrape event. According to the PM, the Ministry of Health and Wellness has recently approved some protocols that allow events of this kind to resume. He adds that while COVID-19 is not behind us, the government is working to ensure that Bahamians are able to make a living and return to normalcy. It was late last month that Regatta Chairman and Commodore Donnie Strawn reluctantly announced the cancellation of the Nationals, which would have been for the 3rd straight year. He noted that the cancellation of events was extremely difficult, especially when considering the loss in potential revenue for the islands and its residents that host regattas and homecomings. Minister of Agriculture, Marine Resources and Family Island Affairs Clay Sweeting, who was on hand for the Prime Minister's announcement in Cat Island, said his ministry is excited as he says regattas, homecomings and festivals have been supportive economic bursts for Family Islands. He added that the ministry will work with the Ministry of Health and Wellness to ensure that all COVID-19 protocols are adhered to and will await official permission to resume festivals, regattas and homecomings. Well, that does it for news this evening. Once again, I'm Tyler Simonet, and from all of us here at JCN News, have a good evening, everyone.
This segment of the news has been brought to you by Sun Oil Limited.